Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia. It's the show where we go back to the blockbuster to release while in your memory, grab a copy off the shelf, pop it in the old VCR, and see what time has done to it. But probably more accurately, what time has done to us. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
Hola.
And we're here to help you navigate all those landmines littered down memory lane. So Mike, on the last episode, we did a good movie, and we promised our audience that the next one would be a little bit dumber. And yeah. I think we came through.
A little yin and yang, I guess.
Yeah. So my wife likes to check in on me occasionally when we're doing these things. And as you remember, she mentioned that we should do a good movie last week. And I mentioned what we were doing this week. And she said, well, that's a stink burger. And I said, well, Christine, have you seen this movie? She says, no. And then she just wandered off. So,
it's no Congo.
No. Well, and again, she's right, which even makes me more angry.
Yeah.
But we promised a worse movie, and we're going to bring it to you, gang. And we didn't even have to leave the same year, Mike. We're going to stay in 1990 because we're going to talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall from 1990.
Oh, not Colin Farrell's Total Recall.
Okay.
Oh, darn it! I think I might have watched the wrong movie.
Oops.
Wait. I got an idea. Let's pause it. I'll watch it, and we'll immediately come back. Okay. Pause.
All right. Sounds good. All right. And we're back.
Yes.
All right. So we sorted.
Okay, that movie was totally different.
Out.
Thank you. Yeah.
That was
bad shit crazy, man.
Yeah.
I just watched.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go through some of the basis real quick. Total Recall was released on June 1st, 1990. It was directed by Paul Verhoeven. Mike, you'll remember him from Starship Troopers and RoboCop.
Yes.
But he's also done the other side where he's done Basic Instinct and Showgirls.
Yes.
One of our personal favorites, Mike.
Elizabeth Berkley. I was saved by the bell on that one. Oof. Thank you.
Nothing. Yeah, she was not saved by this bell, that's for sure. But it was written by a couple of writers, Dan O'Bonnell and Ronald Shusett, and these guys have been working together for quite some time. And they started writing this in the early 70s, Mike, and they just couldn't come to a consensus on how they wanted the story to go. So they decided, let's do something else. Let's stick with aliens and then figure out a way to write some sort of horror movie. What they came up was the 1979 Ridley Scott Alien, and they co-authored some of the James Cameron stuff with Alien too. So these guys have a history together. Okay. And they adapted the Philip K. Dick short story. I forget the title of it, of course, because I'm doing the show on.
Something about wholesale. Okay. Something.
We can sell your memories wholesale. Something to that effect. Yeah.
That's it.
Philip K. Dick Hollywood has been in love with his repertoire for years. He was a contributing source for the movie Blade Runner, ultimately Minority Report, the Adjustment Bureau. So just to name a few. So his short stories are ripe for interpretation. This had a budget of $65 million in 1990. So I think at the time it was one of the most expensive movies ever made. Yeah. It paid for a lot of squibs and blood packs. Yikes.
It threw me off a little bit when I saw that it looked like it was filmed in Mexico. Now, is that some kind of way to?
It was. Yeah, that was. There's a bit of a lore to this movie because it was shot in Mexico. The entire cast and crew got some very serious food poisoning through the majority of the film. Like the old cliche, "Don't drink the water." Comes true.
Interesting.
But I think most of that $65 million went to, of course, Arnold's salary because Arnold was prime Arnold this time. So, and the rest of the cast. Mike, since we're there, why don't you walk through some of the rest of the cast for us?
Thank you. Kind of thin on my cast. I was, especially since I just watched this, I'm gonna have to go over these the real light cast here. We have Arnold, of course, our former governor of California.
Right.
Sharon Stone. This was she was kind of a Paul Verhoeven stablemate, I guess you could say. Basic instinct.
Yeah.
And this movie, I guess, kind of made her what she was. If there's
Right.
anyone who should thank a director, it's probably Sharon Stone thanking Paul
That's-
Verhoeven thing. And then we had the couple. I can't forget Rachel Ticotin. Which, other than I'm pulling this from my own memory, so I really don't know what else she was in. Maybe someone can enlighten me. But I think she was. I remember her being Mrs. David Caruso at one time.
That's correct.
But I do not know anything other than that.
Yeah.
And then when they go on to the villains of the movie, we had Ronnie Cox, who loved the guy.
Yeah.
Some people might remember him from Deliverance, where he plays a banjo, and then he spends half the movie with his arm twisted behind his back. Good role. But as well as being a villain in this one, he was also a Verhoeven villain in the RoboCop, where he invented the stupid robot that tried to walk upstairs or couldn't go upstairs. What an idiot, right?
Yeah.
And then we have a couple of Starship Trooper alums that were in this, like Michael Ironside, who, God, the guy's filmography must be just like enormous. He's been in so much crap, and they're usually B movies, Z movies. He was in Starship Troopers, of course, and he's always a sneering kind of villain or pseudo villainy kind of guy. Then you had I think the guy who played like the main. It was a main underground good guy in this movie, the head of the rebels. He was also kind of a sneering military figure in Starship Troopers. He returns for another appearance, and then I
didn't catch that. Good catch.
Yeah. And Dean Norris, who some remember from Breaking Bad and Under the Dome, which was a stupid show on CBS. But he's a really fresh-faced kind of fellow in this movie, and I mean that in the punniest of ways. He's
emphasis on the face.
Yeah, you really wouldn't recognize him as with the mutant makeup, but he does. This is the first thing I could ever think of him being in. He's unrecognizable, of course. And then I guess they picked up a lot of extras from Escape from the Bronx for this movie. They were dressed as stormtroopers that just kind of fall over and get shot. There was a lot. There's a lot of. I don't know if there were sign-ons from Mexico or whatnot, but there's a lot of those guys seem to appear and disappear very quickly with blood packs. And that's pretty much the gist of your cast in this movie.
Yeah, I think the kill count was somewhere in the high 70s on this one, Mike. So,
at least. There's so many of those stormtrooper guys that went down. I was like, oh, holy crap.
Considering it's a movie's about 200 minutes, so you can do the math there. There's a lot of bodies. Mm-hmm. So just a couple of notes on that cast, Mike. Arnold got the role, but it was originally written as a more cerebral approach. They wanted to take this. They were thinking about putting Richard Dreyfuss in this role.
Wow.
And even Patrick Swayze was considered at some point. I saved this one for you, Mike. This has a special place in my heart. Cynthia Rothrock, martial arts star.
Oh,
Cynthia
no
Rothrock,
way.
Who's a punchline for a lot of our jokes internally.
Cool cat.
She was she was considered for the Sharon Stone role, Laurie. And that, Nicole Kidman. No. Nicole Kidman read for the Melinda role. You mentioned Rachel Cotten. She read for that role, did not get it. And I mentioned the diarrhea and the food poisoning was rampant throughout the set. This was the seventh biggest box office draw in 1990. We talked about, in the last episode where we talked about Goodfellas, we mentioned the complexity and the crowded box office that the 90s really had year by year. To have a movie this big be only seventh in line, you can kind of show what the weight of what was going on that year. This opened up against Back to the Future 3 and one of my personal favorites, Mike Frankenhooker.
No way.
It did manage to defeat that rough competition. But after this movie was released, the rest of the summer, you had another 48 Hours. You had Dick Tracy, Gremlins 2, RoboCop 2, Days of Thunder, and then of course the epic Ghost Dads, starring the beloved Bill Cosby. But that was a busy summer, right? A lot of stuff going on there.
Yes.
Yeah. It was quite the event. So we'll kind of get right to it. The word Gonzo comes to mind. This movie's I guess we'll get to that. I'm still a little rattled after the viewing of this movie.
Yeah.
But let's get our headspace, Mike. So this was 1990, and there are a couple things going on in the United States during this. You might remember the TV show Cop Rock premiered in 1990.
Thank you.
One of our personal favorites. Gas was $1.34 a gallon. If you can even conceptualize that kind of price now. Author J.K. Rowling was on a British train and started to make some notes about something that would eventually become Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Started writing it this year. Madonna was tearing up the charts. Vogue was the number one song. Mike, that was in our heads as we were in the car.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big summer song.
Yeah, she had that was the summer of Madonna. She was the lead in Dick Tracy, which was yeah. We'll get to that one eventually, I think.
The word Gonzo comes to mind.
and a selfish, and a more selfish point for us. 1990 was the year of the Italian the World Cup in Italy. Mike, let's test your sports quiz. We're at Buffalo Wild Wings, and it's up on the screen. Who won the World Cup that year?
In 1990?
Yeah.
I would love to say Deutschland, but I want to go Brazil.
You were at right and wrong. Germany won, but they were considered They were considered West Germany at that point. I think a few months later they had the unification of Germany. So our German listeners in Frankfurt that we get every week. Hello, guys.
Season starts in a couple of weeks.
Quick call out to you guys. Thanks for listening. All right, so let's go to our first watch. So I remember seeing this at, again, a little local theater in suburban Chicago I went to called the Hillcrest Theater, no longer there. I went on a double date with a friend of mine and his girlfriend, and the girl I was dating before my wife. It was not a good night. Let's just say the gals didn't care for this movie much.
I could see that.
Yeah. I think they spent most of the time in the bathroom waiting for us to finish up so we could go do something else. But, when you're that age, you don't really care about other people's feelings. So we sat through and watched this movie, and we did our high fives and thought it was really kind of cool. But that's all I really remember of it, Mike. And I had not seen this movie since. So you remember the first time you saw this movie, Mike?
I literally have a question mark on my piece of paper because I don't remember. This is one of those movies where just a string of movies. You're talking about the 1990, late 80s, early 90s. We're watching, me and my soon-to-be wife were watching a movie about every weekend, it seemed like. And this was just one of those assembly line kind of movies. Like, here goes the next one. And I'm sure we saw it in a multiplex in Charlotte or Pineville, but I don't remember seeing it. I will say, watching it this time, we watched it together again, and I didn't care how she felt about it because she didn't like it. And I think she went to the bathroom to do something else besides doing her makeup. After watching it. So anyway, it was an experience, but I don't remember. I don't know if it's weird that the movies you do remember and ones you don't, but this one didn't make enough of an impression of me to like do a visual picture of it in my mind of what theater I saw it at. So,
right. It could probably be one of two things. One, it wasn't good enough to leave an impression, or two, it was bad enough to you repressed it and didn't want to think about it ever again.
I do that very well. Yes.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the latter, but let's go through this. Okay. That's the point of the show, right? Is to go through things and revisit them. So, Mike, if you're ready, hit the button. So the movie opens with the red Superman font, and kind of laying out everybody that was involved on the movie, and all the while on the theme song, the score is 90s theme. But we see these two spacemen, number 8 and number 2.
Oh, you've already picked that up. That's good.
But one of them, they're in the land of Dairy Queen. You can see that there was no CGI here. Obviously, a lot of practical effects and green screen and miniatures here. But I just thought I guess at the time it was probably okay, but I thought the special effects were kind of cheesy by today's standards. But one of these two astronauts fall down this sand hill, and we see that it's Rachel Ticotin and Arnold, and the glass on their helmets break, and they get the eyes bulging,
the bug eyes.
And this is the first of many yes from Arnold. And It's a jump scare. It's a dream, Mike.
Oh, darn it.
Stamping one of several hundred movie tropes that we see through the course of this film. So Arnold wakes up screaming, and of course he's shirtless and he's in bed with Sharon Stone, so that's sexy. It turns out that these two are married.
Yeah, that was it was an interesting choice for him to be totally sleeping commando. I thought that was ironic.
Commando, good pun, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's a little pillow talk between Arnold and Sharon Stone, and it kind of sets to the next morning where they're having their breakfast in their kitchen of the future, Mike, where they're watching this they're watching the news on the wall, and we see this like fascist type CEO creep played by Ronnie Cox complaining about this terrorist element on Mars. Embodied by this guy they call Quato. You see the graffiti all over, and it's essentially a revolutionary aspect that's going on Mars. And for some reason, Arnold loves Mars, so he keeps thinking about Mars and wants to go to Mars. And as he goes to work, he wants to ask Sharon Stone if they can move to Mars. It's just no way. Why would you want to do that, et cetera, et cetera. But he just can't get that thought in his head away for some reason, and we'll get to that here as we progress. So we cut to him working his menial job as a construction worker. He's working next to the guy. I don't know if I don't know the actor.
Yeah,
but
what was that guy from? It bothers me because I know him from several things that
Yeah, what I remember him best at he looks like your typical like pizzeria owner guy.
Yeah.
But I remember him mostly. I hate that I don't know the actor's name, but I don't want to marginalize his existence in this, but I will. Remember the movie City Slickers, where he's the guy that's they pan in on his butt crack, and they pull that. He's telling all the kids, it's like, what does your dad do for a living? And he's telling he's impressing the school children in front of a very begrudged Billy Crystal about how he's a cop and how he kills people. And, But all they focus on is his butt crack in this.
That's what you're.
Hey, but it worked. I remembered him.
Yeah, there you go.
But so he's having a conversation with butt crack guy and talking about Mars, and he says, "Hey, you don't want to go to Mars. It's nice. You don't want to do it." And they start talking about this company called Recall with a K, Mike.
Yes.
And what it is essentially, it's a company that and this is where the Philip K. Dick influence comes in. It's a company where they implant memories of better experiences for
the memory of a lifetime. Recall.
Exactly. Recall. Yeah. So Arnold can't get it. He can't shake this idea. So he goes to Recall and sits down in front of this kind of weaselly little used car salesman type guy, and starts talking about what he wants to do. And this guy starts selling them the package with all kinds of upgrades and options. What I thought here was funny, Mike, is there's always a porn influence on any kind of new technology. He's talking about what girl would you like, but he kind of sells them on this package. And right away, Mike, this is where the dialogue was, it struck me like it was dialogue akin to like a Jackie Chan movie. Did you notice that? It was just the weird kind of patterns in their voices, and it almost sounded like it was dubbed. It just sounded
in a
weird.
way. Yeah, there's a lot of short 2-3 word phrases.
Yeah,
kind of like you say, choppy is a good way to put it.
Very ham-fisted, clunky dialogue. But so they sit down Arnold in the chair to give him his Martian experience, and he has what they call a schizoid embolism, Mike.
Yes, schizoid.
Where another chance for him to do his stuff. He has a freak out. So the doctor and the lab assistant come in, and she gets called the stupid bee, and then she ends up turning and slapping her lab assistant. I thought that was a weird scene. But they panic. They notice that Arnold's got some sort of implant in his brain already, and apparently you can't double up. So they essentially do the equivalent of like wiping his brain and kicking him out on the street and kind of excluding themselves from anything. So they're scared to death of what they come across. So Arnold. As Arnold wakes up in the Johnny cab, which is
nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Apparently in the year 2084, we've developed these golf carts that turn into taxis, and we have caricatures from cabbies from the 1930s that drive them robots. He wakes up in this cab and he doesn't know where he is, and he kind of gets dumped out on the street where he comes across his friend Buttcrack guy Harry, and Then Harry suddenly turns on him. He's got a gang of Goombas with him, and they tell him that you were never supposed to go there, and you broke protocol, and that you messed everything up, and they start beating him up, and then Arnold suddenly remembers that he's got some sort of killer training, and just kind of violently kills these 7 guys in the middle of the street. A lot of crunches.
A lot of celery's crunched in that scene.
The Foley guy was working overtime. A lot of celery guy. Yeah.
The spine cracking sounds. Yes, it's good.
So he freaks out. He doesn't know what's going on, and he runs home to Sharon Stone and tells her the same story. And then she tells him to calm down. And as he's doing that, she turns on him too and starting to beat the crap out of him. What I noticed, interestingly enough, about this scene, the fight scene, Mike, Arnold's crotch is
target.
is some serious danger.
Yeah.
He gets 2 right in the fellas, and then she grabs a knife and then goes after him again in that region.
Yeah.
So they're having this big fight, and then we see in the monitor that Michael Ironside, who we find out is actually the true wife of Sharon Stone, and his Ed Begley Jr. looking sidekick and a bunch of goons are running up to kill him. And then they break down the door and then start chasing Arnold through the down to I guess a train station, Mike.
Yes.
And in this scene, this is the scene where the movie tells you one thing: the sanctity of human life is completely disregarded. Yeah. And we get this incredibly violent, like almost 8-minute scene of him running through the train station, using the bullet-riddled bodies of innocent bystanders as human shields. Just ultra violence. Even the Johnny Cab, he gets into the Johnny Cab and runs away. And they even take the opportunity to give the Johnny Cab driver a violent death.
I love that scene.
Yeah. So this what is essentially a golf cart hits the concrete wall at probably 18 miles an hour.
Explodes. It's like the Enforcer in Space Mutiny. You don't expect an electric cart to explode like this. Is what's going on?
It explodes. It explodes twice. If you didn't get enough from the first angle, we'll show it to you again from the second angle.
Here you go.
So Arnold's freaking out, and he tries to find like this little safe room where he can kind of hang out and at his dingy motel. And as he's there, he gets a phone call from an anonymous phone call. Well, not so anonymous because they have the same phones. I think they stole the same phones from the set of Aliens, Mike. The little cameras, the communicators.
Yeah, the Novatel phones. This is pretty fancy.
Yeah, the FaceTime enforced communication that we have in the future. But he says, "Hey, I'm a buddy of yours from the agency, and you told me if you got into the situation to contact me and to meet." So they play this, "Hey, your old self sent you a message" thing a lot in this movie. Mm-hmm. So this agent leaves a suitcase at the stoplight, and Arnold runs down and grabs it, and
What? Okay, this brings me to a point I have in my notes here.
I set it up. I set this up for you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, the old lady that tries to grab the case.
There it is. Yeah.
Not only does she have a potty mouth, but there's a lot of people, like even the lab assistant that works at Recall, like there's a lot of unnecessary cussing. And I'm not a prude by any means, but like the rampant use of the F, even by this this old lady who was grabbing the case. Why was she grabbing the case? Why did she need it? And
everything other than the main plot is gratuitous, whether it be nudity or violence or language. Yeah. It's yeah.
Gratuitous is perfect. Like I said, it was like, what? Why is this in it? Why is this in the movie? Why?
Well, I thought about you when I saw that, Mike, and I knew you'd be.
Thank you.
But he grabs this suitcase and takes it to this little abandoned concrete factory, and we get a little bit of exposition where he watches a video of himself, previously taped video of his old identity talking to him and telling him that if you're listening to this now, then all this has happened, all that kind of thing. And it turns out that Ronnie Cox has put his shoulder back into place and has spent it, kind of screwing him over. And he explains to him that he's got they're still tracking him, and he gives him this equipment in the suitcase to extract this implant that's in his skull. And I love this scene here, Mike. I think Arnold has 3 prosthetic heads, and this is the first one that we see. He jams this machine up his nose, and he pulls out this Super Ball size.
It's like a shooter marble or something. It's like, what the hell? How'd that get out of his nostril?
Yeah. So he pulls the Aggie out. And it's all old school special effects, but he pulls this thing out, and to the cringing of the audience, and it allows himself to get free. And the takeaway here is that he needs to get to Mars to figure out the next part of the mystery. So he goes back to Mars dressed as the fabulous Moolah, or some gorgeous lady of wrestling. Right. As like as his cover. And he's going through customs, and he's dressed as like an older lady with a big ascot on, a big yellow, and she's like 7 foot tall, so not the most conspicuous thing you'd want, big bright yellow dress, but she can only say 2 weeks, Mike. 2 weeks. The customs agent's asking, how long you're going to be here. 2 weeks. And so, what's your name? It's just 2 weeks. So there's obviously a sort of malfunction in the elaborate costume. and we see kind of a neat thing at the time. The costume kind of disassembles and contracts and opens up, and we see that Arnold's inside. Yeah. So what I thought was funny is that, he takes the head off and throws it at all the bad guys, and suddenly the 2 weeks loop is broken. She says, "Ready for a surprise," and it blows up.
Wait a second. The head was sentient? What's going on here?
So the head blows up and kills a bunch of guards, but also cracks the dome on Mars, protecting everybody from the vacuum of space.
I got some problems with their glass protection of this atmosphere and they control inside. But please proceed.
So anyway, which is a recurring theme in the movie, that once this glass breaks, people can get sucked out, and you don't want to do that because you look like you're from the Evil Dead for a couple. Your eyes bug out, and you lose air pressure, and your head explodes. But yeah, so he manages to escape the train station, and it kind of checks into the Mars Hilton. And while he's there, as he's checking in, he realized that his other version of himself gave him a note in the security box. What I couldn't understand here, Mike, is he opens up the box, and it's a flyer for like a sex club, like Mars Amsterdam. Yeah,
club scum or what?
Yeah. Inside joke. Yeah. Well, but yeah, so Hobgoblins, guys, check out the movie Hobgoblins. You'll know what we're talking about. It's probably not worth it though. But why be so cryptic? Why not just say, "Hey, you need to go to this club and get this thing"? But he gives him the flyer. So he goes to this sex club where we get introduced to the mutants, Mike, and the hookers, or the mutant hookers, as is sometimes the case. And this is where he meets Melinda, played by Rachel Ticotin. Melina.
Oh, sorry.
And she's happy / unhappy to see him.
That's right. Yeah. The typical, where were you all this time? I'm so worried about you. Where were you? Slap.
Yeah. So she gives him a couple faces. She slaps him, and then she kisses him, and then says, hang tight. So he goes back to the hotel, and as he's there, this Weasley doctor and Sharon Stone come in and try to trick him.
Oh yeah, that guy. I meant to tell you. Yeah. The only movie I remember. Okay, you mentioned Butt Crack guy. This guy, the Weasley head of Recall. I remember him from being in Arachnophobia, and he's like he works at a mortuary, and there you go.
Another horrible movie. Yeah, this guy's profile is awful. But the takeaway here is that they're trying to trick Arnold into taking this red pill out of the Matrix that will snap him out of his dream. They're trying to convince him that he's had an implant and he's not really who he thinks he is. So they force him to do that, and then he notices that the doctor's sweating, and he shoots him in the head. And then there's some more fighting.
Most clever moment in the movie, by the way, I think, to me. That they're because I don't go off on a tangent here, but if you actually read the 19-page short story this movie's quote inspired by, um,
Right.
you don't know by the end of the story if it's kind of Inception, like the spinning top in Inception. You don't know
Yeah.
if the main protagonist is actually in a dream or if he
Right.
really did have these memories or not. So
Yeah. And
the fact you could have a guy that would show up and say, "Hey, man, you're actually sitting in a chair at Recall in in Detroit in 2084 or whatever. You're not here." To me that
yeah.
was really clever. And then having the beat of sweat, like, wait, this is not real. This is
Yeah.
real. And I thought that was really, like I said, the most unless quote unquote intelligent part of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I think a cerebral approach would have been probably more effective, but they don't have time for that because they've got people to kill. So
And eyes the bug out.
yeah, exactly. So he shoots the doctor, and then Sharon Stone feels compelled to go after his crotch again, a couple extra times. But this time she's got backup, Mike, and they come in and they take him into custody. And at this time, Melina shows up, and you don't really know who her character is yet at this time, but she shows up with an Uzi and just starts killing everybody. uh, innocent bystanders included, and grabs him and rescues him and says, "We've got to get you to Quato." So, yeah. So we finally get to meet Quato, Mike. So she,
I can't wait to see Quato.
me either. So you already got me started. I told you not to do this. So she ends up taking him underground, and they get back in the Johnny cab, Mike, and there's this huge, I guess, high speed, quote unquote, high speed chase at speeds of
No,
3.
it's Benny Cab. Remember, he has
I think
he
it's
has
with the cab with
five.
Benny. Yeah.
He's got he's got 5 kids to feed.
Yeah, they find this who they think is their ally in a taxi cab driver named Benny, and he drives them to go see Quato, and apparently there's an underground resistance on Mars led by this guy named Quato, and they need to see
A guy. He's
Arnold.
a guy named
Yeah.
Quato. This is going to be
Yeah.
really interesting to hear about.
It will be, right? So in the meantime, they kind of stop back at the sex club and kind of meet up with the team. And so we get introduced to a 3-breasted prostitute,
Yes.
which I thought was really just clever.
I thought it was clever the 3rd time, or maybe the 4th time they showed it.
Yeah, they really wanted to show off. Yeah,
it really added to it. Yeah,
yeah. The 7 or 8 time they make a joke about, hey, she's got 3 boobs. That was funny, right? We get introduced to a little person playing the actress. We find out her name is Thumbelina. She's a
Yes.
prostitute as well. So as they're meeting the crew, we mentioned we meet Hank from Breaking Bad. He's one of the he's got kind of like a meat comb over. Yeah.
He looks kind of like the guy who helps Yoda in Return of the Jedi. I don't know. Remember that kind of like white? He has like a little alien, like a little thing over his face. That's what
yeah.
Here's more like a. And they made Dean Norris look more like the butt of a baboon.
Yeah, emphasis on the butt. Yeah, but as they're meeting with, as it turns out, the Resistance headquarters is this brothel in Venusville, which I thought was funny, Mike. Wasting away in Venusville. So as they're meeting together, saying, "Hey, we got to get you to see Quato," the bad guys show up, and it turns out at this point that Thumbelina is quite the killer. she jumps up. So you ever want to see a little person prostitute shooting people with a machine gun? This is the movie for you. She takes out Ed Begley with a knife and then starts lighting up the place. And sadly, Mike, the 3-breasted prostitute, gets shot here. So.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, but there's a series of railing kills and slow mo. People going through glass and getting killed, but they eventually kind of get down into the tunnels and make their way to see Quato. So, they're talking to one of the guys in Resistance, and it turns out that he knows that Ronnie Cox has put there's some sort of information in Arnold's head that he put there. In Quaid's brain, and Quato being a psychic, they think he can retrieve it. So we get introduced to Quato, Mike. So the guy that he's talking to kind of stands in the corner and starts groaning. At that point, I might have got out of the room at that point. But he turns around to reveal this little mutant. It's basically a sweaty Cabbage Patch Kid, Mike. That kind of comes out of his body, and we're
It's more like a garbage. It's more like a garbage pail kid.
Exactly. If Quato's such an interesting rule, maybe they could get Quato a comb or a towel. but Quato's this little figure that. Oh my God! Cut.
He was very sweaty. I didn't think about that. He was some kind of juicy and sweaty.
He was all greased up, oiled up for some reason. I guess when you come out of somebody's body, you need some sort of lubricant or something. I don't know, but
he has the voice of like a Vienna Boys choir castrati. I mean, it's like incredible, like soft, almost Michael Jackson-y voice. I was like, amazed that this creature produced this voice.
He had kind of like a John Edwards voice. The the guy that read your future, that could put you in touch with your dead loved ones. But Quato extracts the memory, and Arnold has been witness to in the Earth in Mars's core. They find this ancient machine that was designed to terraform and make the environment livable. That apparently is just ready to turn on.
I have a question. Why was Doug Quaid's memory there? Why wasn't he in it? Why was his memory like an aerial shot of Cohagen talking with his other scientist cronies about what this water plant was supposed to do? Why? I didn't quite understand if that was a memory or if this was something that he saw. It didn't make sense to me. Like, you have little Yoda Quato bringing this memory out, but it wasn't really a memory. So what was that?
Mike, I'll thank you to take any logical thinking out, please, so we can get through this.
I apologize. Continue.
Because the plot device would not allow that. So it turns out that there's this giant, ancient, alien-built mechanism inside Mars's core that can convert the atmosphere, and that would leave Ronnie Cox, whose company is currently he sells air. He sells air. Like,
he's mining turbidium ore.
Yeah. So,
if they turn on this machine, it will corrupt the turbidium ore that is so important to I don't know what, but it is very important.
Yeah. So
by the way, I want to add this. There's at least 2 scenes in here that made me literally laugh out loud, which doesn't happen often. But the scenes where like Michael Ironside has to report to him, and Cohagen always has his back to the camera. You just see the back of his head
over the shoulder.
Slowly turn, and he slowly turns around. Just thinking about it, I'm like, what?
Like, look into the lens, you loser.
What was that? That's just so bizarre. I don't know. Director's choice of I don't know.
I guess it made it look more menacing. That
and Quato Quato is a mutant, but is the host the mutant, or is Quato's body that he supports is that the mutant? I was very confused.
I don't know. I really don't want to think about Quato.
I have so many questions.
There's so many questions. I literally, my wife walked by as I was doing this film, and I was on the countertop of my laptop, and I hit pause and I laughed, and I kept laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing, and she poked her head around the corner and said, "What's going on in there?" And I said, "Quato."
He's here. Finally. 3/4 the way to the movie. It's Quato.
And I don't know why I didn't laugh that hard the first time I saw Quato back in 1990.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell everybody right now, I may not get through the rest of this episode because of Quato. It's like giggling in church. You can't stop. And every time I think of Quato, I'm just going to lose it. So we're going to have to move on. But he extracts his information, and by this time Ronnie Cox has got word that this is all out, so he's angry. So he shuts off all the air in Venusville, risking the life of all the mutants. and and this is where Benny, the cab driver, does a heel turn, Mike, and they're trying to head their way to the trigger, the on button of this machine to turn on the air, and then they get sidetracked, and Benny leads them into the hands of the enemy. And here's where we Ronnie Cox and Arnold finally meet each other. They have their big face off, and they do like a kind of a Barnaby Jones recap or a Scooby Doo villain thing where he explains everything he did. And it turns out that they made Arnold a mole because they wanted to find out the location of Quato, so this information would never get out. So that's kind of the premise of that, why he doesn't have his memory, because they took it away from him. So, but it ended up working. So he led him right to Quato, and sadly Quato gets executed, Mike, and it was a sad day for all of us when they shot the puppet. He kind of looked like a hobgoblin, didn't he?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. As standard practice for these things, Arnold finds a way to get out of it. So they end up trying to get Arnold to wipe his memory completely, and they put him in the chair, and as well as Melina, and just trying to wipe his memory to put his original personality back in place. And then I liked all the lab technicians in the yellow coats, Mike. You knew everybody.
They're like red shirts.
Yeah, everybody that had the yellow coat, they were in some serious danger. So Arnold does his thing where he uses his brute force to break open the chair and stab the guy in the neck with the. He basically kills a bunch of dumpy white scientists and escapes. And then as he's running to turn the machine back on, Benny shows up again, and probably one of the worst, probably one of the saddest attempts to kill anybody. Benny's in a mining machine, and he's trying to grind up Arnold, and Arnold finds a drill and drills into the side, and he drills into Benny, kills Benny. We get the "screw you" joke, which I thought was hilarious. But fortunately, Benny knocked a little hole in the wall so he could get inside and get to the machine. And of course, Ronnie's there to help him stop it. And it's fun. This kind of final standoff, and so Ronnie Cox kind of blows up something and cracks the wall for the vacuum, and they're all three of them around this trigger, and the vacuum breaks, and then they're all like hanging on to for dear life, and Ronnie Cox gets sucked outside, and his eyes fall off.
But bug eyes.
Interestingly enough, his shoulder stays right where it's supposed to. But his eyes bugs out, and his head explodes. Arnold puts his hand on the trigger and activates the machine, and then he and Melina get sucked out. They get sucked out a few seconds afterwards, and they start to suffer the same thing that Ronnie Cox has done. But fortunately, the machine activates in time and oxygenates the atmosphere, and they barely survive. And then Ronnie's head blows up. So they survive, and the mutants get their air back on, and then the skies of Mars turn blue. And why would aliens terraform Mars for a civilization they had no contact? Whether they like custom build it for human life, I don't understand that. But maybe I'm thinking too deep.
You should really just relax.
So the movie ends with Arnold and Rachel kissing each other and under the blue skies, and it kind of fades to white, implying that was this a dream or was it not? So was it a dream?
No.
So, and that was the end, Mike. And Quato didn't make it. Quato.
Yeah. He would have been home in time for cornflakes.
Yeah, what the hell was shot. That line? Did you notice Ronnie Cox played exactly the same character he played in RoboCop? It's the same kind of.
Exactly.
Not even a hint of any kind of variability there. Yeah.
No, it was no. Yeah, there was no subtlety to it at all. It was just like, okay, remember what you did in RoboCop?
Yeah, do that.
Now you're on Mars. Do that. This time, turn your back to the camera and then like slowly approach the phone.
So,
and knock over some goldfish.
We're going to shoot you 50 times, you fall out of a building, but this time your head's just going to explode. And Ronnie's like, gotcha. Check.
Gotcha. Do it.
So this movie ended up making, regardless of our screwy take on it, this movie was very successful. It made $25 million in its opening weekend. Ended up at 119 million U.S. box office and 261 million worldwide. And these are 1990 numbers too, so you got basically double those in today's terms. So,
and this was still
it was still only this. Still
number
only
7 domestically, or
domestically, still only the 7th biggest movie in the United States that year. So, we started this podcast for a reason, folks. The 90s was just an amazing time for movies, and it's not our opinion; it's just the numbers just kind of show you that, But yeah, so it did get a couple Oscar nominations, Mike, for sound and sound effects editing. It did not win. It did spawn a kind of a failed remake in 2012 with Colin Farrell. That decided to not do anything with the mutants or not be set on Mars. So I boycotted the movie on those terms alone, because that was a time in the early 20 teens that they were remaking a lot of our favorite movies, and I boycotted those on principle, if nothing else. So, but I'm thinking I might give this one a try, because I'm guessing it probably failed because it's more realistic more adhered to the Philip K. Dick story. It might have been a little too cerebral, but I might give it a try just to cleanse the palate, if nothing else. But yeah, that's kind of it, and but not a whole lot of awards or anything, but a huge box office. And it did, set some standards for wanton violence, I guess.
Yeah,
but
that's what blew me away.
Yeah, and then Verhoeven would carry this over to Starship Troopers and some other films that he's certainly not subtle, Mike. He goes to the edge on all his films. So let's do our diligence and put it through the grumpy meter. Mike, why don't you go first this time?
Thank you. Yeah, I like I said, I'm watching it the second time. I'm profoundly disappointed that I don't remember seeing this as much as I did the second time, because watching it the second time, I'm blown away at how maybe that was the thing. Maybe 1990, we didn't recognize the violence as much as we do now. But watching it now, I'm like, just what the hell is going on here? Just almost mindless violence and just campiness. And I would say it did have a good mix of humor in it. Some of the one-liners like consider that a divorce, or get your ass to Mars.
I like
some of those.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face here.
Yeah, exactly.
Look who's talking.
And but I guess ultimately I'm looking at it going, wow, this is. Maybe you can help me here. I don't remember them explicitly saying what year this movie's set in. Like, I don't know if it said at the very start. And I just missed the little subtitle.
2084, Mike.
Okay, but did they say it in the movie, or is it just like from like a filmography?
That I couldn't tell you. If it was set in the movie, I didn't notice it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't notice it in the movie, but you're assuming it's in the future. But I think one of the biggest letdowns for me is their vision, or Verhoeven's vision of the future, is really shit. I mean, you look at a movie like Fifth Element, and you look at admittedly, probably in the same level of campiness as this movie.
Yeah.
But you at least felt like with the wacky music, the costumes,
a little more utopian.
Even some of this. Yeah, it felt more like a futuristic.
Like they got better
than this.
It didn't stay in 1987.
Yeah, this like, especially the scenes where they're on Earth, it looks like it's filmed at like a Mexico City Votech college or something.
See,
you know what I mean? Like the big concrete. It's just everything looked like it was in the same building.
Yeah,
and you look at the fashions, even what they're wearing. It's like this looks like something I would see in the 90s of somebody. I mean, it was like looking at Paul Reiser in Aliens 2, where he's got his little puffy jacket. That's right,
the Paul Reiser collection.
That's right. That's what reminded me of. Like there was no leap forward in fashion. There was no leap forward in architecture.
No.
And they had like the Blade Runner kind of inspired like Pepsi Cola signs.
Yeah.
And like the neon, like they had what was it? It wasn't USA
Mars Today. Did you notice that Pepsi once again hitched its wagon to a really crappy movie?
They did it again,
guys. If you see a Pepsi logo in your movie, it's bad.
Run, Godzilla. I mean, just they really just kind of wimped out. Like their closest, they would throw in like little things. Oh, wow, the World Series is in Tokyo. Ooh, wow, this must be the future. Just little
Tokyo
things like
versus
that.
Toronto, Mike, and the Blue
Right.
Jays won like 2 World Series after that too. So
yeah, there you go. But just little things like that,
Yeah.
or just it was kind of just half-assed. The world building on Mars, which I'm still a little confused about. Why would if the purpose of this planet is the mining of turbinium ore and it makes Ronnie Cox like this, little megalomaniac, why even have tourists go there? Don't come here. We're mining over here. It's like, why would there even be a Hilton hotel there? It just seemed a little silly. And, just don't, and again, a glass dome, like the glass protecting you from certain death was like, it could be so easily broken. It's just
or shot
really,
through. Yeah.
come on, man.
Try harder.
Try a little harder. The Venusville with the mutants, nice, clever touch. That was kind of cool. They didn't really, explain it other than, oh, well, they don't get like normal air, so they started mutating. Right. It's like, okay, well, that's interesting. But other than that, even the soundtrack, like you say, was just insipid. You look at the damn credits, and their 3 main songs were, Mutant Dancing, Rubble City, and Running Out of Air. You got all of those, right?
Hey, they're still on my iPod.
And just too campy, too much violence. Like I said, not a prude. I'm used to movies of violence, but this was just ridiculously amounts and just gratuitous.
Lazy. Yeah.
Gratuitous.
Okay. Well, I'm not too far away from that, Mike. I think that the first time I saw it, I was probably in a different age and different era, and didn't really. As I get older, I have more filters I put on one way or the other, and I just these things are just not pleasant to me anymore. So my first time, I was probably like a 3 out of 5. I think I'm probably 1.5 or 2 out of this one. Yeah, this isn't something I'd want to watch again.
Agreed.
Maybe the Quato scenes. I'd watch the Quato scenes, but
I just want the scenes of Ronnie Cox turning around on a loop. Just that's my favorite part.
If any listeners want to send us any gifts, I would love a silkscreen Quato T-shirt. I'm an XL. You can just how about some little payback here? But it's just something. Like I said, I have too many filters now, and this movie just kind of violated a lot of them. It was funny. I didn't have a great time watching this, other than this is going to be a funny joke for this podcast. But as a casual viewer, it's like I was just really turned off. And again, that's not the movie's fault. It's just my interpretation of it now. But the movie started it. So yeah.
No, right. I mean, it's a genuinely a good story, and you can tell it was. You're. Even before I knew this was a Philip K. Dick story, it was like you read the plot and you're like, wow, this is pretty high level stuff. And then when you actually see that they just kind of took some strands of that story and then ran with it.
Richard Dreyfuss had this role, and like Ron Howard directed it or something. Mm-hmm. It would probably be a really cool movie for us now, but that didn't happen. So there you go.
I was just thinking about Thumbelina.
That would be and I want that. I want Thumbelina on the bar shooting people on the back of that T-shirt. So y'all, the audience has it as that's a call to action, as they call it in podcast marketing.
Business, party in the front, business in the back.
That's right. You can email your design to nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. All right, so let's. This is part of the show where we kind of talk about other things, Mike, than just our love of retro movies. So, and we discussed things we're currently watching and enjoying. I just finished the second season of Only Murders in the Building on Hulu, and surprisingly enough, Mike, it's a premise of 2 old guys doing a podcast that shouldn't be doing one. So it kind of hit home. Wow. But it was it stars Martin Short and Steve Martin. And I've seen those guys live, and they're just comedy heroes of mine. And they do a really clever, old school like 30s, 40s murder mystery, juxtaposed against the modern podcasting culture that we're in, and that's really clever. Stars Selena Gomez, who I think is some sort of Disney singer, but she's actually pretty good in this. And she kind of tempers their weird views with the Gen Z / millennial take on some of the predicaments. So it's really kind of a clever show, and I would recommend Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. Mike, what are you watching?
I'm going to get ready to watch a show on Netflix that I guess I hear more about the buzz of it than anything. Is Sandman.
Oh yeah.
I think what's got me interested about it is not only is it Neil Gaiman, but it apparently is the way it's filmed is disconcerting to a lot of people on Twitter, which honestly makes me
probably a good take. Yeah.
So it's it's not your run of the mill show. So if it has any kind of inventiveness to it and originality,
I saw that as well. It sounds interesting, so I'll give that a try. We'll have to watch that together because I don't think my wife will watch that. And
same
all right, well, it's a date, Mike.
Yeah. I'll bring the popcorn and the turbinium ore.
Yeah, I'll bring the squibs and the blood packs. All right. So that's going to kind of wrap it up, guys. Before we leave, I just want to remind you that you can see anything about our show on our Instagram page at Grumpy Nostalgia. We feature trailers and things coming up next. We'd love to hear your comments. You can also reach us on by email. You can send us any emails to nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. We're soon to be putting together our Facebook group, so we'll let everybody know how that proceeds. And we're still looking for email candidates. If you're interested in sitting in on the show and doing some top 5 lists, we're still trying to put that together. So let us know if you'd like to sit in. We'd love to have you join us. Mike, anything else before we break out today?
No, I'm getting ready to go on a trip with Vicky Vale to Quato, Maltese, and take pictures of.
That's right, you're heading that way. So enjoy your travels, my friend, and we'll get back soon, and we'll put up some more glorious content. So let's wrap it up, guys. For Mike James, this is Justin. We will see you again next time.